This is what's going to happen tomorrow at 10:30 p.m. Well, it seems like the message on the thumbnail got you curious, and that was expected. It shows that you're a normal person with dreams, goals, and things to do. But why is it that when people read something like this, most immediately think it's something bad, something that's about to happen and shake the world to its core? It's not that. In fact, it's something good, something enjoyable. And it all depends on you, on how you decide to face this tomorrow at 10:30 p.m. You can choose to stay stuck in that hole, in that sad, heavy place. Do you feel like that right now? Then leave those feelings behind. Right now, I know that you, watching this video, are someone special. I have no doubt about that. Starting today, your dreams and goals will begin to bloom again. Something inside you is awakening. A flame is being lit. The flame of a new beginning, a new journey. And it depends on you. Did you know that? So those plans you've shelved, you can start them again. Life is so much more than what you see right now. The first step is to believe in God, to have faith, and to feel that everything is changing for the better from this moment on. It all begins inside you. Remember that. And tomorrow at 10:30 p.m., I want you to send a message to that friend who needs to hear this. Or better yet, send this video right now to everyone you think might need it. And remember, tomorrow at 10:30 p.m., you'll think about this video. And you'll remember that you become someone better than you were today. More loving, more radiant. Filled with good plans and projects for your life and for everyone around you. Take care. Every journey toward becoming a better person begins not with grand actions, but with a quiet moment of realization. The moment when you finally face yourself in the mirror and admit, something needs to change. Freud often said that human behavior is deeply influenced by forces we cannot see. The unconscious mind, full of desires, fears, and repressed emotions. We like to think we make rational choices. Yet much of what we do is driven by what lies beneath awareness. To become someone better, Freud would say, is to make the unconscious conscious. To confront what we've been avoiding. Ask yourself, what have I been running from? Perhaps it's an old failure, a broken relationship, or a dream you once had but left behind in the dust of practicality. Freud believed that suppression creates suffering, that the parts of ourselves we reject do not disappear. They simply go underground, waiting to be recognized. So, the first step to personal growth is brutal honesty. You cannot change what you refuse to face. Look within, not to criticize, but to understand. This is the beginning of self-awareness, the soil from which every genuine transformation grows. Carl Jung expanded on Freud's idea, suggesting that within each of us lives a shadow, the sum of all that we deny about ourselves. Jung argued that true maturity doesn't come from pretending to be perfect, but from embracing the shadow and integrating it into our consciousness. If you want to become a better person for yourself and those around you, you must learn to accept the contradictions inside you. Strength and vulnerability, kindness and anger, love and resentment. They coexist, and denying one only gives it more power. In this first stage of your journey, don't rush to fix yourself. Instead, observe, reflect, let your awareness deepen. The mirror may show you imperfections, but also shows potential, the raw material for who you can become. Freud taught us to look inward. Jung taught us to find meaning in that inward gaze. Together, their teachings form a map, not perfection, but integration. Because you don't become better by denying who you are, but by understanding who you've always been. Inside every person lives a collection of forgotten dreams, ideas and desires once full of life, now buried under the weight of doubt, fear, or time. Maybe you plan to start a business, learn a language, write a book, or simply live more fully. And yet, life happened. Responsibilities multiplied, disappointments piled up, and those dreams began to fade. Freud might say that these abandoned dreams still live within your psyche, influencing you quietly. They appear in your daydreams, in moments of envy, in the subtle sadness you can't quite name. Ignoring them doesn't erase them. It only deepens a sense of something missing. Jung, on the other hand, would encourage you to see these dormant ambitions as symbols, messages from your unconscious calling you toward meaning. To repress your own calling, he believed, was to live a divided life, one where your outer actions and inner desires move in opposite directions. So, how do you resurrect these dreams? First, acknowledge them without judgment. Maybe they didn't work out before. Maybe you failed. So what? Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of it. Freud will remind us that every step backward contains information about our inner world. Why did you stop? Was it fear of rejection or fear of your own potential? Second, rebuild your courage through action. Jung once wrote that, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." Start small. Reopen that notebook. Dust off that project. Call the person you've been avoiding. Movement, even minimal, reignites purpose. Resilience is born not from strength, but from repetition, from rising after each fall until rising becomes your nature. The mind, Freud taught, finds healing through expression. Jung added that the soul finds meaning through creation. When you take one small step toward an old dream, something shifts internally. You remind your unconscious that you are still alive, still capable, still willing. Becoming a better person is not about moral perfection or constant happiness. It's about alignment, making peace between your past and your potential, your fears and your purpose. So tonight, open the drawer where your forgotten plans sleep. Choose one. No matter how small or distant it seems, breathe life back into it. Because the world doesn't change through perfect people. It changes through imperfect souls who choose to try again. Resilience is often misunderstood. Many believe it means never breaking, never feeling pain, or always being strong. But Freud and Jung would disagree. To them, resilience is not the denial of suffering. It is a transformation of suffering into strength. Freud saw life as a continuous negotiation between our desires and reality, between what we want and what the world allows. He called this tension the reality principle. When we face disappointment, loss, or failure, it's natural to feel defeated. Yet, resilience begins when we learn to accept reality without letting it define us. Every person, Freud believed, must find ways to sublimate pain, to turn emotional energy into creative or meaningful expression. Artists do this through painting, musicians through sound, thinkers through words. But you don't need to be an artist to practice sublimation. It's how the unconscious heals. Jung would say resilience is born when the ego, our conscious self, learns to trust the deeper intelligence of the psyche. He called this process individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming whole. To Jung, obstacles are not punishments. They're invitations. Each crisis is a conversation between who you are and who you are meant to become. When life knocks you down, don't rush to get up. Stay there for a moment. Listen. What is life trying to show you? What truth hides beneath the pain? Resilience is not found in ignoring the wound, but in learning from it. It's in saying, "Yes, I fell, but I'm still here." That statement alone has power. It reclaims your agency. Freud taught us that healing comes through remembering and working through the past. Jung taught us that growth comes from listening to the present. Together, they reveal that resilience is not a trait you either have or don't have. It's a muscle built through self-awareness. And just like any muscle, it strengthens with use. Every time you rise, every time you choose understanding over bitterness, every time you open your heart again after being hurt, you become more resilient. So don't measure resilience by how few times you fall. Measure it by how deeply you grow each time you rise. If resilience is about rising, emotional maturity is about how you rise and how you treat others while doing so. Freud believed that emotional health depends on our ability to manage inner conflict. Each of us carries competing forces. The ID, our primal instincts, the ego, our reason, and the superego, our moral conscience. The mature person, Freud said, is not the one who eliminates conflict, but the one who harmonizes it. That harmony reflects in how we treat others. If you repress anger, you may project it. If you deny envy, You may criticize others to feel superior. But when you understand your emotions, when you see them as messengers rather than enemies, compassion naturally follows. You stop reacting from pain and start responding from awareness. Jung expanded this idea beautifully. He believed that every relationship is a mirror, that the people who irritate or inspire us are reflections of aspects within ourselves. The kindness we admire in others is the kindness we have yet to own. The flaws we judge are often shadows of our own unresolved pain. Emotional maturity, then, begins with humility, the recognition that we are all works in progress. When you stop seeing others as threats or obstacles, you begin to see them as teachers. Some teach through love, others through pain, but all contribute to your growth. To be a better person for those around you, you must first become more honest with yourself. Freud would call this self-analysis. Jung would call it integration. Both lead to empathy, the kind that doesn't come from pity, but from understanding. We often speak of changing the world, but Jung reminded us that no tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. Meaning, you can only bring light to others if you face your own darkness. Emotional maturity is not about being endlessly positive or unshakable. It's about being real, knowing when to speak, when to listen, and when to simply hold space for another's pain. So, as you grow, remember, improvement isn't just measured by your achievements, but by the peace you bring into the lives of others. Because in the end, the greatest sign of a better self is not how much you've accomplished, but how much love and understanding you've learned to give. At some point in life, often quietly without warning, we realize that self-improvement is not just about success or happiness. It's about meaning. The human soul does not thrive on comfort alone. It longs for purpose. Freud believed that human beings are driven by two great forces, the instinct to survive, Eros, and the instinct to destroy, Thanatos. Between these two impulses, life becomes a constant balancing act between building and breaking, between holding on and letting go. Freud's work reminds us that growth requires discipline, the ability to channel our raw instincts into something constructive. But discipline alone is not enough. Without meaning, structure becomes empty. That is where Carl Jung's vision enters. The belief that every person is born with a unique path, a calling of the soul, which he called the individuation process. To individuate means to become whole, to align the outer life with the inner truth. It's not about being perfect or pleasing everyone. It's about becoming who you really are beneath the noise of expectation. You may ask, how do I find my purpose? The truth is, purpose is rarely found. It is built, piece by piece, through choices, experiences, and moments of courage. It reveals itself not in grand revelations, but in small acts of authenticity. Every time you choose honesty over convenience, compassion over judgment, persistence over fear, your purpose sharpens. Freud would remind us that understanding yourself is a lifelong task. Jung would add that becoming yourself is a sacred one. Together, they show that meaning is born where self-knowledge meets action. Think back to plans you once buried, the ideas you postponed, the dreams you were too afraid to chase. They were never truly lost. They were waiting for you to grow strong enough to carry them. Each of them was a clue, a symbol of who you are meant to become. Now is the time to open that drawer again, to look at your reflection not with regret, but with gratitude, because every setback, every mistake, every scar shaped you into someone capable of starting again with wisdom. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That is your purpose, not to imitate, not to compete, but to express your own truth in a world that constantly tells you who to be. Being a better person for yourself and others begins here, in the conscious decision to live with intention. When you act from awareness rather than fear, you radiate clarity. People feel it. The energy around you changes. You begin to attract growth instead of conflict, peace instead of chaos. Resilience, compassion, and purpose are not separate paths. They are the same road. Each step towards self-understanding brings you closer to connection with others. Each moment of kindness toward yourself echoes outward, healing what's around you. So pause for a moment, breathe, and ask yourself, who am I becoming? Not who I was told to be, not who others expect me to be, but who my soul whispers I am. You don't need to have it all figured out. You only need to keep walking with awareness, curiosity, and faith. Because the journey to becoming a better person is not a destination. It's a practice. It's a daily return to your truest self, guided by the light of understanding and the courage to love deeply, both yourself and the world. And perhaps, as Freud and Jung would agree, the highest form of self-improvement is not changing who you are. It's remembering who you were before the world told you to forget.